We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm so happy to have each and every one of you here from wherever it is that you are tuning into from around this beautiful globe that we live on. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to once again welcome Lee Holden to the stage. Lee, how are you today?
Hey, good morning. I'm good. Well, at least it's morning here.
Well, yes, depending on where people are at, it could be the middle of the night the first time that they're hearing us. So aren't they so lucky that we're peppy?
That's right. I got my morning. Sometimes I do tea in the morning. Today it's butter coffee. Doing a little intermittent fasting. I interviewed 𝙇𝙞𝙩𝙩𝙡 recently, so I'm giving the butter coffee a shot. And you know what? It's not half bad. It gives you that little fired up kick. It's stronger than my 𝑸𝒖𝒄𝒃𝒍𝒆 tea that I normally drink. But
yes, the clean living. I did a ketogenic diet for 5 years without a cheat day.
Oh my gosh.
From the age of 40 to 45 because of this whole neurological illness in the family.
Right.
So, it's
Great.
nothing like a big threat to make you course
Oh my
correct.
gosh. Yeah, it totally does. Right. So I try to live by prevention mindset and, get to things before they arise, which is hard to do because you have to motivate by pleasure instead of pain, which, they're both good motivators, but we tend to listen to pain a little bit more. So I like to reframe the way in which we live life to follow what's going to feel good before we get into pain or have problems. Let's do some wisdom from the ancient master and live by preventative means.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who this is the first time hearing Lee Holden, Lee is a master, a Qigong master, and more importantly, he's my Qigong master. So he's been a long-term Qigong practitioner. He's a doctor of Chinese medicine, acupuncture. His grandmaster is Mantak Chia, who's in the Qigong world, very renowned for his teaching in all kinds of health and energetics around sexual energy and good medical Qigong. And it's a very perfect time to introduce Lee maybe a little bit differently the past, because he's working on a brand new project that actually has been in the works for about 4 years now. Last year, it was launched for the first time as the Superhuman Experience. So for those of you who are familiar with this kind of context, it happened though exactly at the same time as the COVID shenanigan fest hit about a 1 month prior. And so there was a lot of people who went, well, what is searching for superhumans? And then they kind of got on board and understood a little bit about that for about 2 weeks and then went, holy, here comes COVID. And so there was like a total pivot about what your focus was really for the last 12 months. And so it was all about building immunity and creating community and, working from home and all of these huge pivots that Lee was able to make very successfully. So here we come back now to 2021, and you've relaunched Superhumans as the Superhuman Experience. So we're going to spend all of today's time together really talking about where did this idea come from? What is it? Because I think we're all looking for ways to become more superhuman in our experience. To your point about the bulletproof coffee, me doing the keto, everyone's looking for ways to be well.
Yes, exactly. And this has been such a monumental project for me because I ended up being the producer of this project. And I didn't start off that way. I just started off as an advisor, and one thing led to another. And lo and behold, you know how the universe has surprises for you? Well, all of a sudden now I'm the producer. I'm also the curator of the content, the narrator in the film, helping people to understand what this content is all about. It's very unusual. It is extraordinary. It's inspirational. And then what I really wanted to do, as you said, as COVID came in to be, and I wanted to give people resources. So I didn't want them to just watch these extraordinary human beings, almost like an Olympic athlete, like, wow, aren't they incredible? But I wanted those Olympic athletes, and I wanted us as a team to say, well, here's how you can tap into your potential as well. Here's how you can, be your own best self in your life. This idea of superhuman is that we all have potential within us. We have seeds of potential. And, within that huge redwood tree that grows 3,000 years old is a seed of potential. And how do we water it so that we get nourished and we become our own best selves in our lives? Too many people are living with, stress, pain, depression, low energy, fatigue, and we want to reverse that. We want to show people that there's another way, that there's tools and resources that they can use to really tap into something different. And so first we get inspired, and then we get educated, and then we put education into practice. So it's a whole experience. That's why it's the Superhuman Experience, not just, just a website where you can watch or a docuseries. And more, we're turning this into an education series where we have, breath work and mind practices. I have a course on there called Design Your Mind, because when we want to design our lives, we need to design our consciousness. And too frequently, we're always looking to the external to try to change other people, change the external circumstances, when if we change first our internal, we really have a whole different way in which life shows up for us. And so that's been this journey. It's been, the 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. Why, you don't know where you're going to be in the, 100th step. And I think that's where we are now in this 100th step, partway through this journey. And it's been extraordinary and beautiful and amazing. And I love sharing it with everybody. And people should check it out because there is incredible footage. We have people doing things that they probably haven't seen before.
Let's talk about some of that. So everyone get out your pens and papers. Like I always ask on every episode, write this down because it's important. Superhumanexperience.io. So it's like that different. It's not a .com, it's a .io. And first of all, when you get on the landing page, you're going to have a visually stimulating experience, maybe like you've not had for quite some time. When you look at a piece of art or something that you're going to take into your life. When I first saw Superhuman Experience, and now looking at this Superhuman Experience.io, what struck me to start with was it's like National Geographic meets Indiana Jones, because that's my frame of reference. Like beautiful footage, very exciting. There's like it looks adventurous. It feels like a really great adventure, and mystery is about to unfold. So if that speaks to any part of people's lives, it's really great in terms of capturing your imagination. But who are some of the guests that you have on? What do they do, Lee?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that too. It really is like a spiritual Indiana Jones adventure.
Yes.
And as you watch it, you go, is this real?
Yes.
And so what I come on and say is like, is it real? Let's find out. We did our best, the best we could to verify all the masters that we met along the way. And it was real in terms of everything that we could verify, having scientists on board with us and just these authentic, genuine human beings that were doing incredible things in the energetic arts and the spiritual arts. So yeah, quite incredible. And Leah, what was your question? You said you had a good question, and now I'm off on a tangent on some other island in my mind. What was that again?
It's just like, so what were some of the things that people can do? Like, would some of the names be familiar? And if not, what would be some of the things they'd be able to do and see that maybe they could be trying to do? Yeah.
And so, you asked me about my guests too. So, and that's incredible. So we went out to the caves of the Himalayas. We found people that you would not hear about, couldn't find. We found martial arts masters in China doing incredible things. We went to Russia and found, the Russian psychics, and even a KGB officer that can move and manipulate and channels people's energy and move them from across the room. So we went around the world finding those kind of people, Tibetan masters and all kinds of folks that you wouldn't have heard about. So then I came home and I said, you know what? we need to talk to the people, the best-selling authors in this space, the scientists, the researchers, the doctors, and hear what they have to say. So I interviewed, people like Deepak Chopra, Dan Siegel, Bruce Lipton. I wanted to interview the energy masters, Donna Eden, Mantak Chia, Robert Pung, and people like the biohackers, Wim Hof and Dave Asprey. So we got so much good content with people discussing the human potential from all these different angles so that we can really figure out what resonates with us and have a deeper conversation. It's way beyond, do I believe it, do I not believe it? It's really about the conversation that we can have to see, hey, what is possible for me in my life? And let's start digging into that. Let's start excavating some treasures that we all have within us, because for the most part, from what I've seen, we are really living limited lives in a Western mindset, that there is a much broader potential. And that's what these researchers are saying. And in the docuseries, I said, you know what, after interviewing the scientists, the quantum physicists, I realized that those guys are more mystical than the mystics from the Himalayas. I mean, these guys are talking things that are blowing my mind, even more so, or just as much as, the meditation masters that we found. So it's exciting times where there's a convergence
Yes.
of East and West, of Western mindset with the quantum physics and all the new evidence that's showing up with this ancient wisdom. And when we can put these two together, we have real power to change our lives. But not only that, Leaha, I think the true thing that we want to do is to make a big shift in the world that we're living in as a community, as a global consciousness.
Yes, that activation of the entire universal vibe absolutely it's an incredible time that we're living in right now, where more and more people are becoming conscious about just how much they affect that universal vibe. So each one of us, when we think back to the potential of that little seed, and when we go, people are struggling and they're looking for inspiration, the expectation is not necessarily that you're going to become the master that moves people across the room.
Right.
But if you get out of bed one day when you've been suffering from being depressed or anxious, and you can get out of bed and go, I don't actually feel like that anymore, that's life changing, for a lot of people. So when you're contemplating, is this for me? As you take a look at this superhuman experience, it's going incrementally, it might be for you, and also not limiting yourself to this idea that it has to be incremental either.
Yeah.
You might be somebody who watches this and does some of the practices and unleashes something that you never, ever thought was possible, because that's the thing about the universe, is that we're here on our own journey. So when you kind of get on your path and you're going, well, let me try this and let me try that. No, I'm curious about this and let me give that a go. Then you're igniting all that energy within yourself, which is not going to be like what anyone else is doing. But that's why it's so important too, right?
Yeah.
It's like
going. And that's true verification.
Yeah, it is. You talk about going to Brazil we talked about this, taking the trip to Brazil versus looking at pictures of going to Brazil one time. And that was so meaningful for me. I thought that is so true. So people taking the journey. So
yeah. The map is not the territory, that is so true. We really need to have experiences to distill wisdom. Otherwise, it's just in our heads, it's knowledge. And what we're finding now in the information age is knowledge is not enough. Reading about it, Googling something and finding out the information, great. But we really need transformational learning, where we take learning, we put it into an experience, it becomes wisdom, we repeat it, it's verified, and it becomes a skill set. And those skill sets with practice become capabilities and capacities. Otherwise, we're under-resourced to live our best lives. We're trying old techniques in modern life that just are really outdated. And that's why it's so stressful. It shouldn't be so stressful. If we have enough food to eat, we have shelter, we shouldn't really be in stress, because stress is survival. So is my life in danger should be the question when we're under stress. If the answer is no, then we should really move out of stress into relaxation, into this energetic state, or into flow, so that we can overcome our challenges. Because when we're out of survival, we have creativity. We have a heightened perspective where we have like standing on the mountaintop. We get a view of the land, so we can guide and direct this precious life force energy that we've all been bestowed with in a positive direction. And that is easy to say, but it's very hard to put into practice. And what I find is that we do need a practice. We need a practice that we can lean into each and every day, so that when life gets hard, we have something that we know, hey, every morning I do my breathing. Every morning I do my meditation, my Qigong. What is your practice that brings you back to your best self? And if you're not doing your practice, then it's so easy to just get derailed on all the things that life springs upon us.
The joyride, as I call it. Exactly, the joyride. So it's kind of fun though. So in this Superhuman Experience, one of the things I really treasured about it was that when I watched through each one of the episodes, I could see episodes that would be more meaningful to individuals. For example, when there was somebody maybe lighting something on fire with their mind, things like this, I went, who is that going to really resonate for? And I sent it to those people and said, like, skip through the rest of this stuff, just go to this one thing. And they were like, oh my gosh, it's like, that is the coolest thing ever. Or I'd say, hey, it's a KGB agent. They'd be perked up and going, well, what do they know that I don't know? And so I think that's one of the cool things that you really did throughout this docuseries, Lee, and this learning series, is that people can start where they're interested, where they're inspired, and go, oh, well, could I do that thing? Like, they might not resonate at all with 2 or 3 segments of this right out of the chute, but there will be something that will resonate for you. And then picking up on that thread and chasing that thread and that piece of learning for yourself, because then you're exploring what's really meaningful for you, right? But you've done that so well. You've showcased so many people with very high power. And this idea of becoming powerful now, self-empowerment is, I think, tip of the spear where we need to be in our lives. And so people who are curious and trying to master their life, which is all the audience that's listening to this show, is people who are trying to master their life. This is such a wonderful gift. So again, go and check out superhumanexperience.io. Also want to just talk a little bit about the subtlety of the mindset coaching, because lots of people teach mindset, and there's tons of inspirational quotes you can look on your, Facebook feed every single day and look at these, message after message after message that's supposed to be inspiring, but they really lack something. So can you maybe explain what it is, where the disconnect is, why when we read something, we don't necessarily feel better? And how we could do something different.
Right. That's great. You said something too, about mastering your life. Now, when you want to master your life, it's imperative to start this energy mastery. So step 1, master your energy to start, because energy is your life force. And so what life force is your life. And this life force energy is within you and all around you. So we live in these 2 worlds, both our external world and our internal world. And these 2 energies, are they in harmony or are they discordant? And so as you start to learn to work with energy, you harmonize your inner world or your inner universe with external world. And we're always in this kind of like ebb and flow where we're trying to create something externally. And we forget that it starts from the inside out. So first, if you want to change things around you, go within first. Go within to start to master your energy. And then in the docuseries, that's where it starts. We talk about energy first. And we showcase some techniques on how to feel your energy, how to work with your energy. In our last interview, Leah, we talked about Qigong, and it's a perfect practice to start working with your life force energy. Practices that are tried and true, that have thousands of years of history. Start practicing some of those. Take 10 or 15 minutes every morning. And as they say in Qigong, give yourself that lightning flash of vitality from the inside out. And that feels empowering. Now, then from there, we start to really look at our mindset and our minds. And I already mentioned design your mind. Well, what does that mean? Because most thoughts in your mind just bubble up. They are not yours necessarily, meaning you did not choose that thought. You didn't say, hey, I'm going to think this. I'm going to start worrying about the future. I'm going to start this mental stress pattern. No, they just bubble up because they're habituated. So when we want to look at our lives and make real changes, we need to examine our consciousness. So that brings us to techniques like meditation, because meditation is a technique to use as a mirror to look inside your own mind. It's a mirror. Like we want to fix our hair. We do this every day. We look into a mirror and we do something, right? We fix our appearance. Well, meditation is the mirror to your mind so that you can start to work on your thinking process and your consciousness. If you believe that thoughts impact reality, which I imagine a lot of people on your show do, if you believe that thoughts impact reality, then a meditation practice is the first step to creating that change to shift your reality. And when we interview the masters and when we interview the scientists, they're saying the same thing, that first comes mind, consciousness, and then comes the shift in reality. And when we look at these masters that are doing incredible things, they first move their minds and then matter changes. So we say mind over matter, and they are doing nothing other than placebo. Placebo we see every day in medicine. Somebody believes something to be true and they change their body, they change their physiology, and it's miraculous. Nobody can explain placebo. Nobody knows why it works, yet it does work. But how do we get good at it? Meditation. So then we take people through meditation practices, which there are a wide array of meditation practices. And this is a way to really start to shift your mind to see how impactful that is on your reality.
Yeah, love it. And it brings to my mind that I rarely talk about it on episodes anymore because it's so long ago. But 20 years ago, I lost over 100 pounds.
Wow, you did? Wow, incredible.
I did. Yes, and I've kept it off, which is, so that's that. But I became very aware of my thinking and what created it. So there was abuse that had happened. So I was doing emotional eating. But then when I could sit and examine, okay, why are you doing that? And is that actually helping you? And if it is not, if it isn't something that's making you feel good about yourself, then why are you doing that? So just this really clear understanding that that it was up to me to change that way of thinking. That not defaulting to the old behavior of, soothing through food, et cetera. So I became very mindful then. And then I was prepared when I got my Huntington's diagnosis 10 years ago. And they said, well, sorry, just come back and see us when you're symptomatic. And that's not an answer that I thought was acceptable. So I just went right into the whole quantum reality of things and also into the science of neurology. So, neurons that fired together, wired together. So that was what for Qigong for me made complete sense. Because as an athlete, I always feel better when I'm training and thinking about my training. When I'm focused, I'm in my body always feels better. But traditional athletics caught up to me at about age 45, and I started having symptoms of overtraining. And so started Qigong just as results of injury and all this other stuff going on. So it was this really beautiful movement that has continued, movement away from things that harm to things that heal. And that then I could go, what makes me still feel really good, but stay in my body, and I know is still strengthening me and is more powerful. I am more powerful now, Lee, than I was when I was doing all that athletic training. My breath work is better. My mind is more refined. And to your point, though, it's this, it is your mind that leads all of it. Your mind. So the more control you have over the way that you think and not grabbing onto thoughts that aren't yours, it is because there's all this entanglement out there where we can get caught up in things that don't belong to us. And again, people who are listening to this show are probably fairly familiar with that idea that, we're all one sort of one mind, but be thinking about that what your mind is contributing or not contributing. So when I wake up in the morning, I think to myself, what am I contributing to other people this day in the way that I'm thinking about it? And that changes the joy that I come into my life with. My grown son, who is like 24 years old, said to me mockingly last week, he's mocking a bit. And he goes, well, Mom, let's face it. Who walks into the room and says, good morning, everybody, time to rise and shine consistently for year after year after year? And I said, are you saying that was annoying? He said, no, it's just that nobody else in my life has ever replicated that. But that, so there's all these very cool, masterful things. But that's what makes you a superhuman, I think, is when you're really aware of that, that we all have control over what we're thinking and creating, and that we have these tools. Qigong does this thing though, where you move into that it brings you into your body. And so that's why I think the practice is so important for people to try. Yeah.
I mean, this is a good point too, because most things in life are beyond our control. Even most things inside of you are beyond your control. Digestion, you're like, whoa, my belly rumbled, things in your body move autonomically. That's why it's called the autonomic nervous system. But what can you control? Thoughts are one of those things. And breath is one of those things. For example, right now, try this. Just take a deep breath. Right? So you controlled your breath, which gives you access to the control room. So breathing is a big part of this practice. Now, you also control your mind. Change your mind right now. For example, think about what you had for breakfast. Okay, you did that. You control your thoughts, even though most of the time breath is happening all by itself. You don't have to think about it. And as we said, thoughts are just bubbling in habituated patterns, but they're under your conscious control. So that gives us access to the operating room. That gives us access to the control panel so that we can start to make changes. And that's where it begins. So if we learn how to breathe and we learn how to design our minds, now we're in the operating room. Now we can make real change. Now we can say, okay, I know my thoughts just bubble up and I know they impact reality. So if I want to change my personal reality, I change my mind. I start to get in there and I start to look at what thoughts are coming up and I say, do I really want those thoughts to be impacting my reality? If not, I'm going to start to work with them and change them. Like a gardener getting into the mental garden and saying, okay, this needs to be compost. This needs to be pruned back. And I want this to flourish. Now, here's the problem with just letting mind go on habituation is that it's hardwired for negativity. About 80% of our thoughts, if we don't really examine them, are on the negative side, maybe more. And there's a lot of reasons why, in terms of our survival, that is true. But if we want to live happy, fulfilling lives, this is something crucial because we can't be in two places at once in our own consciousness. We're either in survival mode or we're invested in our happiness or life purpose. So it's very essential to get out of stress and get into a different part of the in different part of ourselves within, so that we can start to guide and direct this life force energy, mental energy, and consciousness into a different space. So that's where true change comes from.
Yeah. I akin that to when people think that it's just their mind, that your brain actually is an organ. And a lot of people discount the brain as an organ. They don't think about it that way. So they don't realize how much action is actually going on with all that synastry up there. It's like zipping and zapping all the time.
Yeah.
They're very conscious of their stomach and their heart and their liver and their lungs and their kidneys and, et cetera. They're very conscious of that, but they're not that conscious of the gray matter that's between their ears. And that's the thing that is real. It's the thing that's driving the whole bus. So
those little 3 pound, 3 pounds is like 2% of your total body weight, but your brain is a great consumer of life force energy. Think about it this way. It's 3% of your body's weight, but it consumes 25 to 30% of the oxygen that you breathe, that you bring in. It is on overdrive. So this is a really important point to see. The brain as something that's very powerful and influential, and how do we work with it? There's ways to work with it. And, when we're getting less than optimal results in our life, we just don't have the manual to tell us how to do better. We don't have the resources. And of course we don't. If we're having stress and problems and pain, of course, because we haven't learned anything other. It's very normal to be in, a state of confusion and like, what's life all about? Because we see people doing it one way and it's not the optimal way. And so there's a different way, and let's showcase and turn people on to something else. And my advice is to try it. If you want to see different results, try something different. And these teachings and practices are tried and true. They're like a well-trodden path up to the top of the mountain. I mean, most people are trying to walk straight through the bushes, and you have no visibility, and you get, a lot of thorns, and you're tripping and falling. It's like, okay, that is one way to do it, but the masters of ancient times have created these wonderful paths with spectacular vistas, and it's a fun and exciting inspirational journey this way. So, get out of the bushes and the weeds and get on the path that's going to give you that great scenery.
Love that. Love that analogy. I kind of think of it as like floating down the river, and not a straight river, but it's kind of the river of life, where there's twists and turns and there might be rocks and stuff. But if you're actually floating, then the stream will take you. Even if you go into some pretty rough terrain, you can, you can maybe stay not capsized if you're.
Hey, we all like a good river rafting trip where there's some rapids,
right?
But, most people are going down the rapids looking the other direction and without a boat. So you're swimming upstream and you're getting tired and you're going through the rapids and you're like, man, I'm just getting, beat up. But if you just jump on the boat and turn around, now you're in a flow and you can guide and direct. You're going down the same rapids. There's the same twists and turns, but now you have visibility and you have your hand on the oar to steer through the dangerous spots that maybe otherwise would really derail us. And that's what we want. Now you are expressing the power and energy of the river rather than struggling against it. And that is what is called effortless power. And I think that's when it becomes really fun and expansive and a journey rather than a struggle full of stress.
Mm-hmm. And believe me, the reason why Leah and I can speak to this is because we've been the ones going through the jungle also from time to time in our lives, right? It's just,
absolutely,
we can relate. That's why we go. We would love if we could help people to stay out of the jungle and get more on a pleasurable ride in their life. And so it is from that position that we take these shows that we do. Again, we love our audience. We love the people who we work with, our communities that we get to impact. And that's exactly where this is coming from, is that the struggle for people has gotten so enormous in this last year that a lot of people are choosing to exit stage left much more quickly than, we would love them to experience their whole life in its fullness. And so this is part of why we want to showcase these shows. Do you think most people, Lee, when they're little, and you've got lots of kids, I've got kids and grandkids, do you think most people when they're little think of themselves as superheroes a little bit, or they can tap into that thought?
That is a great question. And absolutely, yes. Because I have little kids and my oldest twins are 13 at the moment. And I remember that most of the conversations when friends come over, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? That is still a question that they ask each other, and the answer varies greatly. And I find it fascinating that this is a conversation that is happening for children all the time, and their imaginations are not limited like we are. Their imaginations really expand into unknown scenarios, and they make up very elaborate worlds in their minds that are really fun explorations. And I think this gets shut down through our education, through, our schooling, our, the way in which we're raised. It starts to shut down slowly, sometimes very rapidly as we get older, and we start to limit ourselves in terms of who we can become. Because as we look at the neuroscientists, you said it, neuroplasticity doesn't stop at age 21, as it was previously thought. Neuroplasticity, the brain continues to be flexible, learn and grow. into our, 80s, 90s, hundreds. It's just, we can, when we use it, it strengthens. And so that's what's really important. And is that as we use it and develop wisdom and use it some more, we become stronger and stronger. And, that really speaks to, let's say, the aging process and a whole other realm that we could get into on aging gracefully, and keeping our minds, strong, and how important that is.
So I want everyone to take a moment and just for fun, take a moment and write down, if you could be any superhero, who would they be and what superpowers would you have? And ignite that little spark in you, because this is why I asked the question, is because really, when you're against difficult odds, look for the heroic things that you would like to be displaying in the world. And then once you become conscious of that, then you start aligning to that. And so it's an invitation for everybody to go, what superhero would I be? Or what kind of superpowers would I have? And really explore that. Take 10 or 15 minutes and share that with a friend. Like, this is how we build community. And, getting out of that day-to-day humdrum, oh, life is so terrible and this is so horrible. And it's getting into play and creative mode. So thank you for sharing that about your kids. That's so fun and important. And now maybe, if people get, again, to the Superhuman Experience.io, check that all out. And when you fall in love with that and you're doing those practices, that's one very cool thing. And you're starting to take back your power. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about today is that you not only can people participate with you in that way, but you can also become a teacher online, which right now I think is a part, people are really feeling hopeless about being able to grow in their life. Schools have been shut down. Training's been shut down. Doing things in person has been shut down. Gyms are shut down. Getting to the doctor is difficult. What can we do? And the reason I think it's so important and vital to talk about this is because you might be looking for another way to make income right now. And going, I love athletics. I'm a trainer. I've been somebody who's, dedicated my whole life to wellness, or I've got this really huge health challenge and I don't know how to overcome it, but I'm too broke because of all of this stuff that's been going on to actually feel empowered at all in my life. So becoming a Qigong teacher, I can speak to this a little bit because I did that path. I've been a trainer, a personal trainer, like lots of coaching stuff. But as soon as I started doing Qigong, I went, I want to be able to teach this. I want to learn it and I want to be able to teach it. So maybe Lee, you could just spend some time talking about your teacher training, who takes it, why it might be a good thing to consider or contemplate.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. We have a Qigong teacher training. It's a little bit like going to Hogwarts. Why not? We're learning about energy and the powers of your energy, the mind, movement, breath. And, it starts with your own practice, of course, but this teacher training really can help you shift into diving in deep, first and foremost for yourself. When you learn something to get a certification, we go in a little bit deeper than we otherwise would. So you don't have to necessarily go, I'm going to do teacher training so that I can be a teacher and go out in the world and teach classes. You can do it for yourself to really put yourself through that test and really learn something in a deep way, in a deep and meaningful way. And a lot of people have done that and they become teachers. They said, oh, this has had such a big impact on me that I want to now teach it. I want to share it with my friends, family, community. And they started teaching this ancient wisdom in their own way. So I think it's a really ripe time to make it an impact in the world. I mean, I feel so blessed because I've been able to travel all over the world, teaching something that I'm really passionate about, that I love. And, I think that is what's possible for everybody else to take something that is meaningful to you, that has impacted you in your life, and now share it in the world. And we have this online teacher training. It's 16 weeks. It's self-paced. You could take 16 weeks. You could take 6 months. You could take 2 years and go through it at your own pace and really take in all the information and assimilate it. Some people finish the teacher training, they teach kids. Some people teach seniors. Some people teach it in the hospital. Some people go to the yoga centers and teach it there. And it's also, you learn a nice set of meditation tools and techniques. So, and that teacher training is at holdenqigong.com. So that's where you get that certification, at holdenqigong.com.
And are you doing anything in person right now, or does it just really depend on travel regulations and such at the moment?
It depends. Yeah, we haven't opened up the in-person yet, but hopefully this fall we will. And what we do now is once a month we do a live Q&A. So everybody gets on and we do a live Q&A. They ask me questions. And then also once a month we have a master class where we do it live on a Zoom, either with me or one of my senior teachers. And so it's a very engaged community. There's a Facebook group, people asking questions all the time. And yeah, it's a really wonderful thing. It's expanded into areas that I didn't even know were possible. So it's very exciting and inspiring, even for me.
Yeah, so much fun, so much fun. And that's one thing we haven't talked about really much, is when I've expressed that I do Qigong to other people, to go, first of all, well, what is that? And I explain it. And then I say, but the most important thing you need to know is that it's playful and fun, and anybody can do it. Because I think people get in their mind that it's more like Tai Chi, that there's particular movements that you need to do and that it's quite, serious. So maybe we could just talk about what's the attitude or the, presentation of the Qigong that you teach, Lee.
Yeah,
how you
I
do
think
it.
You said it, it's kind of like this. We have a serious business of not being too serious. It's like, yes, we're focused and we're having fun. We're going inward and we're working on some deep internal processes, and they're very light. They create levity and relaxation. When we're all together in person, there's a lot of laughter. I mean, there's a lot of laughter through the whole course too, because we're doing things that are different and unusual, and we're just tapping in, and we're doing it together, which means that you're with a community that speaks your language. Because too often in life, when you're talking about these things, energy and consciousness and meditation, this isn't a language and a skill set that most people have. So you might feel a little isolated and alone in your way of thinking, in your quest for the human potential. So we get together with like-minded individuals and we support each other in that, so that, I hold you to your best light, you hold me to my best light, and we work from that space and go forward from there, which is really important to have those communities so that we're not feeling isolated and alone in this quest, because we are such communal type of creatures. We love community. We love to be connected. That's why, things like Facebook and Instagram, these work so well, because we want to be connected, but true depth of connection really comes when we have like-minded energy and we support each other in that space.
And let's talk about how you create that in the teacher training.
Yeah, well, so we create that by the Facebook groups, the personalized Facebook groups, the one-on-one coaching that will have people get one-on-one coaching. They have the master classes, the Q&As, and then what we'll do next step as things open up, what I love to do is get together for, a week of training where I get to go over everybody's forms and I coach them through deeper practices. And then of course we have live trainings where we can do that in person as things open up. And then you have that foundation from the online course, that education, and then you come into an in-person learning if that's something for you, and we go deeper and we take it deeper together. And a lot of people that come to those live trainings, they make their best friends there. They meet people that they stay in contact with for years and years and years. And it's just a wonderful thing to see how this coalesces for individuals in unique ways.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love the consistency that you guys have come up with on this program. As a participant in it, I can say that it has been an absolute joy to have an offer to be able to go to a class at least once a week or more with master teachers that are all different, but they're all playful and fun. They all have tons of experience, and each one of them has a different way of taking and pulling out of me the best that is in me. And so they can be teaching something that's a completely gentle practice. They are teaching something that's, really loose movement, fluid and fun, or something that's a power class. So there's all of these different modalities, again, that are available that might just tune into or help people to feel like they're connected in one way or another. You'll find a way to be connected there, and constantly offerings of ways to get together, so once or twice a week for sure, there's offerings of either tea with you or tea with another trainer, or master classes, or more information, even on how to build your business. So there's all kinds of things to explore. So again, really encourage people who are looking at alternative ways of learning and taking their own learning to a different level to check out the teacher training. I want to spend a couple minutes just at the end today talking about how does that teacher training or taking your Holden Qigong online classes help people to integrate and have a better experience at the Superhuman Experience. So how do those things dovetail?
Wonderful. Because these really are two different programs. One is a docuseries, and that docuseries was a high budget documentary. It started out as and became this docuseries. But the first step in that unlocking of the superhuman potential was energy work. And working with our energy works with our life force. So it was working with your life. And that's what is so, what I love about it, and they synergistically work so well together, is that, the Qigong program and the teacher training really diving into life force energy and what does that mean? And so when we say life force energy, the force that keeps you alive, that's this mysterious force within us. That's the energy of your body, the energy of your emotions, the energy of your mind. And then we get to see in the Superhuman Experience, hey, let's get some inspirational people and see what that's, when somebody gets really good at it, when they devote their life to a particular aspect of that life force energy, what can happen? And then we get to showcase those individuals. In the same way, what can happen if somebody focuses on, ballet or art? You say, whoa, how do they do that? Well, it's because they put a lot of time and attention into it. They do things that most people, 99% of people, can't do. And that's what we did in those energy arts. And you see people doing it, but we want to still do it. We still want to work it for ourselves so that we can really tap into who we are. And that first tapping in can be energy and breath work, and then working into the mind and consciousness. And then it just unfolds from there.
Awesome. And we're done for today, Lee. We're out of time again. So thank you so much for your time and for your experience and your wisdom in bringing this wonderful program, all of these programs that you do that are just so high level. So everyone, please get your copy of superhumanexperience.io, get involved in that. Come and check out what's going on masteryourlife.ca. I want to invite everyone to love yourselves, love each other, mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.